Welcome back, guys. Hopefully you're doing well. Don't think I forgot about you. Get your trusty highlighting tool. Mine's just a good old Sharpie. Let's jump into chapter 6, into action. Having made our personal inventory, what shall we do about it? We've been trying to get a new attitude, a new relationship with our Creator, and to discover the obstacles in our path. We have admitted certain defects. We have ascertained in a rough way what the trouble is. We have put our finger on the weak items in our personal inventory. Now these are about to be cast out. This requires action on our part, which, when completed, will mean that we have admitted to God, to ourselves, and to another human being the exact nature of our defects. This brings us to the 5th step in the program of recovery mentioned in the preceding chapter. This is perhaps difficult, especially discussing our defects with another person. We think that we have done well enough in admitting these things to ourselves. There is doubt about that. In actual practice, we usually find a solitary self-appraisal insufficient. We find a solitary self-appraisal insufficient, guys. So the chatter we have between our ears is generally not enough to create the momentum and the healing you need. You need to be at a place where you're admitting it to another person, not just yourself and God. That's been my experience in a while as well. Many of us thought it necessary to go much further. We will be more reconciled to discussing ourselves with another person when we see good reasons why we should do so. The best reason first. If we skip this vital step, we may not overcome drinking. This is an absolute certainty. When I got sober down in Arizona, they said this is what happens. People usually go out around the 4th step and the 9th step. All right. Time after time, newcomers have tried to keep to themselves certain facts about their lives, trying to avoid this humbling experience. They have turned to easier methods. Don't do it, guys. Invariably, they got drunk. Having persevered with the rest of the program, they wondered why they fell. We think the reason is that they never completed their house cleaning. They took inventory all right, but hung on to some of the worst items in stock. They only thought they had lost their egoism and fear. They only thought they had humbled themselves. But they had not learned enough about of humility, fearlessness, and honesty in the sense we find it necessary until they told someone else all their life story. So guys, remember, something that I didn't really address was some things that happened in my childhood, maybe in your teenage years, that had little to do with anything to do with substance, drugs, or alcohol. But because it affected my spirit on such a great level, or I was too embarrassed about it, I wanted to hold on to it, I didn't see the significance, the connection, I didn't get any sort of healing from it. So I needed to reveal all of these things going all the way back. So maybe you too need to consider that for yourself. More than most people, the alcoholic leads a double life. He is very much the actor. To the outer world, he presents his stage character. This is the one he likes his fellows to see. He wants to enjoy a certain reputation, but knows in his heart he doesn't deserve it. You ever felt that way? I know for sure I have. The inconsistency is made worse by the things he does on sprees. Coming to his senses, he is revolted at certain episodes he vaguely remembers. These memories are a nightmare. He trembles to think someone might have observed him. As fast as he can, he pushes these memories far inside himself. He hopes they will never see the light of day. He is under constant fear and tension. That makes for more drinking. Psychologists are inclined to agree with us. We have spent thousands of dollars for examinations. We know but few instances where we have given these doctors a fair break. We have seldom told them the whole truth. nor have we followed their advice. So how willing have you been when you've gone to help, or going to get help, I should say? Have you been totally forthcoming with everything you've been struggling with, everything you've been thinking about, everything you've done? Somebody doesn't have the whole picture. How can they give you the right treatment? Something to think about. Unwilling to be honest with these sympathetic men or women, we were honest with no one else. Small wonder many in the medical profession have low opinion of alcoholics and their chance for recovery. We must be entirely honest with somebody if we expect to live long or happily in this world. And I would say, you notice that there's nothing to do with alcohol and drugs in here, guys. I would apply that to anybody's life. Honesty is such a huge foundational key of living. Rightly and naturally, we think well before we choose the person or persons with whom to take this intimate and confidential step. Those of us belonging to a religious denomination which requires confession must, and of course, will want to go to the properly appointed authority whose duty it is to receive it. Though we have no religious connection, we may still do well to talk with someone ordained by an established religion. We often find such a person quick to see and understand our problem. Of course, we sometimes encounter people who do not understand alcoholics. If we cannot or would not rather not do this, we search our acquaintance for a close-mouthed, understanding friend. Perhaps our doctor or psychologist will be the person. It may be one of our own family, but we cannot disclose anything to our wives or our parents which will hurt them and make them unhappy. Remember, guys, this is a double-edged sword of honesty, right? We cannot disclose anything to our wives or our parents which will hurt them and make them unhappy, right? So it's being really hard on yourself, but being very, very conscientious of the pain you could be causing other people. My experience is, if you don't feel comfortable with your sponsor or somebody else in the program, I had good experience going to see a clergyman. At the time, I had not gone back to church. I currently am. That's how I seek my spiritual practice, but it was a good experience for me. I contacted a church who had been instructed to me that had done step 5 in the past, and it was really good. The guy was like super easygoing, really laid back, really kind, really encouraging, and I got a great sense of freedom from it. So consider it, even if you're defiant towards religion. Back to it. We have no right to save our own skin at another person's expense. Such parts of our story will tell to someone who will understand, yet be unaffected. The rule is we must be hard on ourselves, but always considerate of others. Notwithstanding the great necessity for discussing ourselves with someone, it may be one who is so situated that there is no suitable person available. If that is so, the step may be postponed. Only, however, if we hold ourselves in complete readiness to go through with it the very first opportunity. We say this because we are very anxious that we talk to the right person. It is important that he be able to keep a confidence, that he fully understand and approve of what we're driving at, that he will not try to change our plan. We must not use this as a mere excuse to postpone. Guys, defiance and discipline do not go well together in this program. This is open heart surgery, guys, when we're going through the steps. A rapid succession push through 1 through 12 is very important for consummation of that spiritual connection to start blooming. Do not drag your feet, guys, please. Warning from the wise. Back to it. When we decide who is to hear our story, we waste no time. We've written an inventory and we are prepared for a long talk. We explain to our partner what we're about to do and why we have to do it. He should realize that we are engaged upon a life and death errand, guys. Think about that. Think about it. Most people approached in this way will be glad to help. They will be honored by our confidence. We pocket our pride and go to it, illuminating every twist of our character, every dark cranny of the past. Once we have taken this step, withholding Withholding what? Nothing. We are delighted. We can look at the world in the eye. We can be alone at perfect peace and ease. Our fears fall from us. We begin to feel the nearness of our Creator. We may have had certain spiritual beliefs, but now we begin to have a spiritual experience. The feeling that the drink problem has disappeared will often come strongly. We feel we are on the broad highway, walking hand in hand with the spirit of the universe. Returning home, guys, this is a really important part that a lot of people really overlook. Please pay attention to this here. Returning home, we find a place where we can be quiet for an hour, carefully reviewing what we have done. We thank God from the bottom of our heart that we know Him better. Taking this book down from our shelf, we turn to the page which contains the 12 steps. Carefully reading the first 5 proposals, we ask if we have omitted anything, for we are building an arch through which we shall walk a free man at last. Is our work solid so far? Are the stones properly in place? Have we skimped on the cement put into the foundation? Have we tried to make mortar without sand? So another really important reason why you go home and be quiet and meditative after doing your step 5 is a lot of times we unintentionally forget things that we had intentionally wanted to disclose or bring up, and they pop to mind, or maybe some things we didn't even think about come to mind, and then we can contact the person again and just let them know, like, this is something else I forgot, and you deal with that right away. You don't just wait and put that on your next set of steps. So yeah, you might be amazed at what comes to mind after sitting around at home, just meditating on the experience and what you've done so far in the program, what can rise up. All right, here we go. If we can answer to our satisfaction, we then look at step 6. We have emphasized willingness as being indispensable. I would definitely highlight that. Are we now ready to let God remove from us all the things which we have admitted are objectionable? Can He now take them all, every one? If we still cling to something we will not let go, we ask God to help us be willing. When ready, we say something like this: My Creator, I'm now willing that you should have all of me, good and bad. I pray that you remove from me every single defect of character which stands in the way of my usefulness to you and my fellows. Grant me strength as I go out from here to do your bidding. Amen. We've then completed step 7. Okay, guys, what you notice in here is it doesn't say anything about alcoholics or addicts. It's just about you being useful. How are you going to be useful to the people around you, right? That's your primary purpose, to be of maximum service to others, maximum service to God. That is the purpose that we start drawing upon and building with. All right, here we go. Now we need more action, without which we find that faith without works is dead. That, my friends, is from the book of James in the Bible, in case you were wondering. Let's look at steps 8 and 9. We have a list of all persons we have harmed and to whom we are willing to make amends. We made it when we took inventory. We subjected ourselves to drastic self-appraisal. Now we go out to our fellows and repair the damage done in the past. We attempt to sweep away the debris which has accumulated out of our effort to live on self-will and run the show ourselves. If we haven't the will to do this, we ask until it comes. So you pray for the willingness, guys. If you don't have the strength and the courage, just pray. Say, God, please give me the willingness. Eventually it comes. Remember, it was agreed. What was it agreed, guys? That you would go to any lengths. This is the part where people run. It's tough to look this stuff square in the eyes and understand that you need to address all the pain and problems you've caused in the past. Trust me, it's so fulfilling, and it's a way to add light to the world. And your heart will totally change by approaching these people and looking them square in the eye, letting them know that you are at a place of trying to right the wrong. It's super powerful. Back to it. Probably there are still some misgivings. As we look over the list of business acquaintances and friends we have hurt, we may feel diffident about going to some of them on a spiritual basis. Let us be reassured. To some people, we need not, and probably should not emphasize the spiritual feature on our first approach. We might prejudice them. At the moment, we are trying to put our lives in order, but this is not an end to itself. Our real purpose, guys, people want to know the primary purpose besides staying sober in AA is, this is it. Mark this page 77. Our real purpose is to fit ourselves to be of maximum service to God and the people about us. Everybody in the world, not just alcoholics and addicts. It is seldom wise to approach an individual who still smarts from our injustice to him and announce that we have gone religious. In the prize ring, this would be called leading with the chin. We lay ourselves open to being branded fanatics or religious bores. We may kill a future opportunity to carry a beneficial message, but our man is sure to be impressed with a sincere desire to set right the wrong. He is going to be more interested in a demonstration of goodwill than our talk of spiritual discoveries. We don't use this as an excuse for shying away from the subject of God. When it will serve any good purpose, we are willing to announce our convictions with tact and common sense. The question of how to approach the man we hated will arise. It absolutely will arise. It may be he has done more harm than we have done to him, and though we may have acquired a better attitude toward him, we are still not too keen about admitting faults. Nevertheless, with a person we dislike, we take the bit in our teeth. It is harder to go to an enemy than a friend, but we find it much more beneficial to us. We go to him in a helpful and forgiving spirit, confessing our former ill feeling and expressing our regret. Under no condition do we criticize such a person or underline where they've gone wrong or where they fucked up. That's not our goal here, guys. It's cleaning our side of the street. If they choose to have some sort of conversation around their part, that's beautiful, but that's not the intention or motive behind why you're doing that. Simply, we tell them that we will never get over drinking until we have done our utmost to straighten out the past. I would say you should probably highlight that too. Because that, my friends, is part of going to any lengths and a reality for people in the rooms. We need to do our utmost to straighten out the past in areas where we need to make amends. We are there to sweep off our side of the street, realizing that nothing worthwhile can be accomplished until we do so. Never trying to tell him what he should do. His faults are not discussed. We stick to our own. If our manner is calm, frank, and open, we will be gratified with the result. In 9 cases out of 10, the unexpected happens. Sometimes the man we are calling upon admits his own fault. So feuds of years standing melt away in an hour. Rarely do we fail to make satisfactory progress. Our former enemies sometimes praise what we are doing and wish us well. Occasionally, they will offer assistance. It should not matter. However, if someone does throw us out of his office, we have made our demonstration, done our part. It is water over the dam. So guys, this is about you putting your foot forward. Even if they tell you to fuck off, you've done your part to right the wrong. You pray about it and let it go. Move on to the next one on the list. Most alcoholics owe money. We do not dodge our creditors. Telling them what we're trying to do, we make no bones about our drinking. They usually know it anyway, whether we think so or not. Nor are we afraid of disclosing our alcoholism on the theory it may cause financial harm. Approaching this way, the most ruthless creditor will sometimes surprise us. Arranging the best deal we can, we let these people know we are sorry. Our drinking has made us slow to pay. We must lose our fear of creditors no matter how far we have to go, for we are liable to drink if we are afraid to face them. This is absolutely true. That was my experience. I had financial debt to pay back, and I had to face my creditors, and it took me probably 2 or 3 years to finally get rid of it all because it was fearful. if I knew how much freedom I was going to get from finally paying that and facing that and the blessing that was going to come and the reduced rate that I got, I would have done it immediately. So keep that in mind. Let my own suffering not be your experience. Perhaps we have committed a criminal offense, which might land us in jail. If it were known to the authorities, we may be short in our accounts and are unable to make good. We have already admitted this in confidence to another person, but we are sure we would be in prison or lose our job if it were known. Maybe it's only a petty offense, such as padding the expense accounts. Most of us have done that sort of thing. Maybe we are divorced and have remarried, but haven't kept up on the alimony to number one. She is indignant about it and has a warrant out for our arrest. That's a common form of trouble too. Although these reparations take innumerable forms, there are some general principles we find guiding. Reminding ourselves that we have decided to go to any lengths to find spiritual experience. We ask that we be given strength and direction to do the right thing, no matter what the personal consequences be. No matter. We may lose our position or reputation or face jail, but we are willing. We have to be. We must not shrink at anything. Usually, however, other people are involved. Therefore, we are not to be the hasty and foolish martyr who would needlessly sacrifice others to save himself for the alcoholic pit. A man we know had remarried. Because of the resentment and drinking, he had not paid alimony to his first wife. She was furious. She went to the court and got an order for his arrest. He had commenced our way of life, had secured a position, and was getting his head above water. It would have been impressive heroics if he had walked up to the judge and said, "Here I am." We thought he ought to be willing to do that if necessary. But if he were in jail, he could provide nothing for either family. We suggested he write his first wife admitting his faults and asking forgiveness. He did, and also sent a small amount of money. He told her what he would try to do in the future. He said he was perfectly willing to go to jail if she insisted. Of course she did not, and the whole situation has long since been adjusted. Before taking drastic action which might implicate other people, we secure their consent. If we have obtained permission, have consulted with others, asked God to help, and the drastic step is indicated, we must not shrink. This brings to mind a story about one of our friends. While drinking, he accepted a sum of money from a bitterly hated business rival, giving him no receipt for it. He is subsequently denied having received the money and used the incident as a basis for discrediting the man. He thus used his own wrongdoing as a means of destroying the reputation of another. In fact, his rival was ruined. He felt that he had done a wrong he could not possibly make right. If he opened that old affair, he was afraid it would destroy the reputation of his partner, disgrace his family, and take away his means of livelihood. What right had he had to involve those dependent upon him? How could he possibly make a public statement exonerating his rival? After consulting with his wife and partner, he came to the conclusion that it was better to take those risks than to stand before his Creator guilty of such ruinous slander. He saw that he had to place the outcome in God's hands, or he would soon start drinking again, and all would be lost anyhow. He attended church for the first time in many years. After the sermon, he quietly got up and made an explanation. His actions met widespread approval, and today he is one of the most trusted citizens of his town. This all happened years ago. The chances that we have domestic troubles, we mix up with women in a fashion we wouldn't care to have it advertised. We doubt if, in this respect, alcoholics are fundamentally much worse than other people. But drinking does complicate sex relations in the home. After a few years with an alcoholic, a wife gets worn out, resentful, and uncommunicative. How could she be anything else? The husband begins to feel lonely, sorry for himself. He commences to look around in the nightclubs or an equivalent for something besides liquor. Perhaps he is having a secret and exciting affair with the girl who understands. In fairness, we must say that she may understand, but what we are going to do about that thing like that. A man so involved often feels very remorseful at times, especially if he is married to a loyal and courageous girl who has literally gone through hell for him. Whatever the situation, we usually have to do something about it. If we are sure our wife does not know, should we tell her? Not always, we think. If she knows in a general way that we have been wild, should we tell her in detail? Undoubtedly, we should admit our faults. She may insist on knowing all the particulars. She will want to know who the woman is and where she is. We feel we ought to say to her that we have no right to involve another person. We are sorry for what you have done. God willing, it shall not be repeated. More than that, we cannot do. We have no right to go further, though there may be justifiable exceptions. And though we wish to lay down no rule of any sort, we have often found this the best course to take. Our design for living is not a one-way street. It is as good for the wife as for the husband. If we can forget, so can she. It is better, however, that one does not needlessly name a person upon whom she can vent jealously. Perhaps there are some cases where the utmost frankness is demanded. No outsider can appraise such an intimate situation. It may be that both will decide that the way of goodness and loving kindness is to let bygones be bygones. Each might pray about it, having the other's one's happiness uppermost in mind. Keep it always in sight that we are dealing with the most terrible human emotion, jealousy. Good generalship may decide that the problem be attacked on the flank rather than risk a face-to-face combat. If we have no such complication, there is plenty we should do at home. Sometimes we hear alcoholics say that the only thing he needs to do is to keep sober. Certainly he must keep sober, for there will be no home if he doesn't. But he is yet a long way from making good to the wife or parents whom for years he has shockingly treated. Passing all understanding is the patience mothers and wives have had with alcoholics. Had this not been so, many of us would have no homes today, would perhaps be dead. The alcoholic is like a tornado roaring his way through the lives of others. Hearts are broken, sweet relationships are dead, affections have been uprooted, selfish and inconsiderate habits have kept the home in turmoil. We feel a man, this is really important, guys. We feel a man is unthinking when he says that sobriety is enough. More action, guys. Dig deeper. Keep seeking God. Keep helping others. He is like the farmer who came up out of the cyclone cellar to find his home ruined. To his wife, he remarked, "Don't see anything the matter here, Ma. Ain't it grand the wind stopped blowing?" Yes, this is really important too, guys. Yes, there's a long period of reconstruction ahead. Who takes the lead? We do. We take responsibility. A remorseful mumbling that we're sorry won't fill the bill at all. We ought to sit down with the family and frankly analyze the past as we now see it, being very careful not to criticize them. Their defects may be glaring, but the chances that our own actions are partly responsible. So we clean the house with the family, asking each morning in meditation that our Creator show us the way. How? Creator, show us the way of patience, tolerance, kindliness, and love. The spiritual life is not a theory. We have to live it. You don't just get to talk about it at meetings, guys. It's got to be practiced in all the things you do, from the time you open your eyes to the time you close your eyes at nighttime, even if it's 1 hour at a time. Unless one's family expresses a desire to live upon spiritual principles, we think we ought not to urge them. We should not talk incessantly about the spiritual matters. They will change in time. Our behavior will convince them more than our words. We must remember that 10 or 20 years of drunkenness would make a skeptic out of anyone. There may be some wrongs we can never fully right. We don't worry about them if we can honestly say to ourselves that we would right them if we could. Some people cannot be seen. People you can't be seen, what happens? You send them an honest letter. And there may be a valid reason for postponement in some cases. But what happens? You don't delay if it can be avoided. Amends are never supposed to be delayed, guys. We do it as fast and as thoroughly as we can. It clears out the space. It clears out the pain. It clears out the wreckage so that allows us to have more light and more connection with our Creator and the people around us. It creates more freedom inside, more ease. It's a beautiful thing. We should be sensible, tactful, considerate, and humble without being servile or scraping. As God's people, we stand on our feet. We don't crawl before anyone. If we are painstaking about this phase of our development, we will be amazed before we're halfway through. We're going to know a new freedom and new happiness. We will not regret the past, nor wish to shut the door on it. We will comprehend the word serenity, and we will know peace. No matter how far down the scale we have gone, we will see how our experience can benefit others. That feeling of uselessness and self-pity will disappear. We will lose interest in selfish things and gain interest in our fellows. Self-seeking will slip away. Our whole attitude and outlook upon life will change. Fear of people and of economic insecurity will leave us. We will intuitively know how to handle situations which used to baffle us. We will suddenly realize that God is doing for us what we could not do for ourselves. Are these extravagant promises? We think not. They are being fulfilled among us, sometimes quickly. I would often say, often slowly. It's a long period of reconstruction ahead, guys. Don't be hasty. This sometimes takes a long time for things to change. But they will always materialize if they're going to materialize if we do the spiritual push-ups. This thought brings us to step 10, which suggests we continue to take a personal inventory and continue to set right any new mistakes as we go along. We vigorously commenced this way of living as we cleaned up the past. We have entered the world of the Spirit. Our next function is to grow in understanding and effectiveness. How long should you be guys doing this for? This is not an overnight matter. It should continue for our lifetime. Continue to watch for selfishness, dishonesty, resentment, and fear. When these crop up, we ask God to remove them. We discuss them with someone immediately, and we make amends quickly if we have harmed anyone. We resolutely turn our thoughts to someone we can help. Love and tolerance is our code. I would remember this all the time when you get in this emotional state, guys. Emotional problems, what do? We go to the solution here. And when we have ceased fighting anything or anyone, even alcohol, for this time sanity will have returned. You notice this, guys, that the sanity has started to return when? After you've done the amends. Starting to step 10, right? Steps are done in the same order. So sanity is going to return to you after you've done the work and you start to grow in seeking with God by step 10 and understand your thoughts, understand your emotions, your reactions. But for people who are at a place expecting their life to change when they are just sitting around in the program, not doing what you got to do, why would their thinking change? Why would their spirit change? They're still in a place of sickness and they don't even know it. They're still operating with severe blind spots. So remember that. We will seldom be interested in liquor. If tempted, we recoil from it from a hot flame. React sanely and normally. And we will find that this has happened automatically. We will see that our new attitude toward liquor has been given us without any thought or effort on our own part. It just comes. That is the miracle of it. We're not fighting it, neither are we avoiding temptation. We feel as though we had been placed in a position of neutrality, safe and protected. We have not even sworn off. Instead, the problem has been removed. It does not exist for us. We are neither cocky nor are we afraid. That is our experience. That is how we react so long as we keep in fit spiritual condition. It is easy to let up on the spiritual program of action and rest on our laurels. We are headed for trouble if we do. So this is basically, you can basically read into this as and imply that you're going to get to a position where you ease up on how much work you're doing and you rest on the work you've done in the past, thinking that that's good enough. I highly recommend, guys, please keep pushing. We are not cured. Remember, guys, when people call themselves recovered alcoholics, recovered from a hopeless state of body and mind, they're not cured from alcoholism. What we really have is a daily reprieve contingent on the maintenance of our spiritual condition. I would highlight that too, guys. So we get that reprieve. Why? Because of the work we're putting into our spirituality. Every day is a day when we what? We must carry the vision of God's will into all our activities. How can I best serve thee? Thy will, not mine, be done. These are the thoughts, here you go, which must go with us constantly. We can exercise our willpower along this line all we wish. It is the proper use. So the willpower is push as much as you want when it comes to putting yourself in alignment with, is this God's will? Am I getting angry? No, that's not God's will. Am I happy? Am I spreading light? Am I being kind to other people? Most certainly that's God's will. Much has already been said about receiving strength, inspiration, direction from Him who has all knowledge and power. If we have carefully followed directions, we have begun to sense the flow of His Spirit into us. To some extent, we have become God conscious. We have begun to develop this vital sixth sense. But we must go further, and that means more action. Step 11 suggests prayer and meditation. We shouldn't be shy on this matter of prayer. Better men than we are using it constantly. It works if we have the proper attitude and work at it. You ever heard of it works if you work it? It's talking about prayer, guys. It would be easy to be vague about this matter. Yet we believe we can make some definite and valuable suggestions. When we retire at night, we do what? We constructively, not shamefully, guilt-filled, review our day. Were we resentful, selfish, dishonest, or afraid? Do we owe an apology? Have we kept something to ourselves which should be discussed with another person at once? Were we kind and loving toward all? What could have been done better? Were we thinking of ourselves most of the time? Or were we thinking about what we could do for others, of what we could pack into the stream of life? But we must be careful not to drift into worry, remorse, or morbid reflection, for that would diminish our usefulness to others. I think that's pretty important. But we must be careful not to drift into worry, remorse, or morbid reflection. Why? For that would diminish our usefulness, our impact, our way to shine light on others. After making our review, we ask God's forgiveness and inquire what corrective measures should be taken. Now, what happens when you wake up in the morning? Well, it tells you. On awakening, let us think. So it's talking about plan, what we're going to do for the day. Think about the 24 hours ahead, and we consider our plans for the day. Before we begin, we ask God, please God, come and direct our thinking, especially asking that it be divorced from self-pity, dishonest, or self-seeking motives. Question your motives all the time. Take your thoughts captive. Understand where they're coming for. What do I really want to do X, Y, and Z for? What motivates me to act? Under these conditions, we can employ our mental faculties with assurance, for after all, God gave us brains to use. Our thought life will be placed on a much higher plane when our thinking is cleared of wrong motives. How much easier is it for you to do God's will when your thought life is changed, right? And thinking about our day, we may face indecision. We may not be able to determine which course to take. Here we ask God for inspiration, intuitive thought, or decision. We relax and take it easy. Remember, guys, we cease fighting everything, everyone, even alcohol. We don't struggle. We are often surprised how the right answers come after you have tried this for a while. What used to be the hunch or the occasional inspiration gradually becomes a working part of the mind. Being still in experience and having just made conscious contact with God, it is not probable that we're going to be inspired at all times. We may pay for this assumption in all sorts of absurd actions. Nevertheless, we find that our thinking will, as time passes, be more and more on the plane of inspiration. We come to rely upon it. We usually conclude the period of meditation with a prayer that we be shown all through the day what our next step is to be, that we be given whatever we need to take care of such problems. We ask especially for freedom from self-will and are careful to make no request for ourselves only. So think about it. We can ask for prayer as long as other people can help. So when it's saying this, you can sort of imply that self-will is going to be a problem and selfish prayer is going to be a problem. Be on the lookout for that. We may be careful never to pray for our own selfish ends. Many of us have wasted a lot of time doing that and it doesn't work. You can easily see why. If circumstances warrant, we ask our wives or friends to join in a morning meditation. If we belong to a religious denomination which requires a definite morning devotion, we attend to that also. If not members of religious bodies, we sometimes select and memorize a few set prayers which emphasize the principles we have been discussing. There are many helpful books also. Suggestions about these may be obtained from one priest, minister, or rabbi. Here's a tough one for me to swallow, guys. Be quick to see where religious people are right. Make use of what they offer. So there's something to be learned. It doesn't say about Christianity, just talking about religious people. Be at a place of open-mindedness, open heart. See what flows into you. Remember, God is everything, all power, all knowledge. God can speak to you through people you least expect. As we go through the day, we pause when agitated or doubtful. We ask for the right thought or action. What do we do, guys? We constantly remind ourselves we are no longer running the show. Humbly saying to ourselves many times each day, thy will be done. We are then in much less danger of excitement, fear, anger, worry, self-pity, or foolish decisions. We become much more efficient. We do not tire so easily, for we are not burning up energy foolishly as we did when we were trying to arrange life to suit ourselves. It works. It really does. Something to consider, guys. We alcoholics are undisciplined. Be on the lookout for that. So we let God discipline us in the simple way we have just outlined. But this is not all. There is action and more action. Faith without works is dead. The next step, next chapter, is entirely devoted to helping others, essentially, and passing on this beautiful healing program of the 12 steps to recovery. Thank you so much for tuning in, guys. Please, as always, like, subscribe, click the bell, and I look forward to sharing you more with Chapter 7 next time. Please leave any questions or comments below. Thank you so much. Much love.